Welcome to the Wonder Fungi Podcast. Today we are breaking things.
We absolutely are.
And honestly,
It's going to feel wrong.
so wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to feel like we're making a massive mistake.
But we are doing it for the greater good of the colony.
I want to start right in the thick of it. I want to set a scene that I know every single person listening, whether you're running a massive commercial fruiting facility or, you're just doing this in a closet.
Everyone has felt this in their gut.
Right. You have been nurturing a grain jar. Let's say it's oats, whole oats.
The classic.
You prep them. You sterilize them perfectly in the pressure cooker. You inoculated them with a liquid culture you probably paid good money for.
You have been babying this thing for weeks.
Exactly. You've been checking the ambient temperature in the room every 4 hours.
Whispering sweet nothings to it.
I mean, literally whispering to it. And you have been watching this pristine, snow-white mycelium slowly creep across the grain.
It really is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's rhizomorphic.
Yeah, it has those thick, ropey strands.
They look like a tiny nervous system.
Yeah.
Or a root system just reaching out into the dark.
And it gets to, say, about 30% colonized.
It looks perfect.
It is a work of art at that stage. Truly.
It is. And then you look at your lab's standard operating procedure, or you just look at your calendar, and you realize what today is.
The day of reckoning.
Today is the day you have to completely ruin it.
The break and shake.
The break and shake. Everything in your reptile brain is screaming, do not touch it.
Just leave it alone.
Right. You have to take this beautiful, fragile, living network that you have coaxed into existence, and you have to violently smash it against a car tire.
Or a tennis ball.
Or a phone book, whatever you have in the lab. You just whack it until that beautiful white network is reduced to unrecognizable bruised debris.
It feels like murder. It really does.
It feels exactly like murder. You look at the jar 5 minutes later, and the white is just gone.
Erase.
It just looks like wet, beaten-up grain. And you stand there and think, I have just killed my children. I have undone 3 weeks of meticulous lab work in 30 seconds.
It is a completely visceral reaction. I mean, biologically, we are wired to protect the things we grow.
Right.
Whether it's a houseplant, a pet, or a fungal culture, breaking it feels so counterintuitive. It feels incredibly aggressive. But, and this is the entire mission of our deep dive today, that fear is misplaced.
Because that violence, it's actually an act of creation.
It is. And my goal today is to replace that fear you have with biological understanding.
We need to flip the script.
Exactly. We need to flip the script in your head. When you smash that jar, you are not hurting the organism.
You're waking it up.
You are triggering a highly sophisticated, ancient, evolutionary survival mechanism. You are unlocking a gear that the fungus simply does not use when it's comfortable.
So we're going to turn the listeners from fearful parents into confident mycologists.
That's the plan.
We are going to break this down into 3 main acts based on our decades running these experiments. We'll talk about the physics.
The math of why we do it.
Right. Then we're going to get into the biology, the magic of anastomosis, which is how the fungus heals.
It's incredible.
And finally, the ecology, why we use this violence as a stress test to catch contamination early.
And we are going to get deep into the weeds here. We're going to talk about proteins, we'll cover bacterial fission rates, and we'll explain exactly why a broken fungus is actually a smarter fungus.
So let's start with the basics, the physics of the shake.
Okay.
Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do this to the mushrooms in our labs? Is it just impatience?
No, it's really not impatience, it's efficiency. It comes down to a very simple mathematical equation. Linear growth versus exponential growth.
Break that down for me.
Think about how a mushroom colony starts in a jar. You inject spores or a liquid culture.
Right, through the injection port.
Exactly. They germinate, they find a mating type, and then they start growing outward from that single point of contact.
Like a ripple in a pond.
That's a great way to visualize it. Radial growth. It grows from the center out in a perfect circle. Now, fungi are fast compared to, say, an oak tree.
Sure.
But they have a hard speed limit, depending on the species. Like, let's say you're growing an oyster mushroom.
Or lion's mane.
Right. The leading edge of that mycelium might move, at best, 0.5 centimeter to 2 centimeters a day.
Which, if you are actively watching it, is excruciating.
It's worse than watching paint dry.
It really is.
If you have a large vessel, like a quart jar or one of those big 3-pound bags of grain we use, and you just let it sit there,
You're waiting forever.
you are waiting for that single ripple to travel all the way from the injection port at the top down to the bottom corner of the bag.
And that can take weeks.
Sometimes a full month.
Yeah.
That is linear growth.
And in the lab, time isn't just money. Time is risk.
Time is absolutely risk.
Yeah.
That is the key takeaway. The longer that uncolonized grain sits there,
Wet, nutritious, unguarded.
exactly, the more chance there is for bacteria or mold to get a foothold.
Yeah.
The grain is essentially a ticking clock. It's either slowly drying out or the latent bacteria that survived the sterilization process are slowly waking up.
So the break and shake is basically a cheat code.
It's a cheat code to beat the clock.
Walk me through the physics of the smash. What is physically happening to the geometry of the colony when I whack it?
So when you physically crush that hard clump of mycelium, and it is hard.
It's like a rubber ball.
It really is. You are taking that one inoculation point, that one single ripple, and you are shattering it into hundreds of thousands of tiny fragments.
And then you shake the jar to distribute them all.
Precisely. You mix them thoroughly into the uncolonized grain. So now, instead of one colony growing outward from the center, you have 10,000 microscopic colonies.
All growing outward at the exact same time.
Yes, distributed evenly throughout the entire jar.
So you have turned one big fire into 10,000 little spot fires.
And when those 10,000 little fires merge, they consume the fuel, the grain, exponentially faster.
It's incredible to watch.
We are talking about shaving literal weeks off the colonization time. Instead of waiting for the leading edge to travel 6 inches, you only need it to travel 1 millimeter.
Because then it bumps into its neighbor.
Exactly.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense physically. We are spreading the seed.
Right.
But there is a rule of thumb we always teach our lab techs. The 30% rule.
Yes. The golden rule.
We don't shake immediately.
Yeah.
And we don't shake at the very end. Why 30%? Why not shake it at 5% when I just see those first little specks of white?
This is crucial, and it's where I see a lot of beginners fail. It all comes down to metabolic reserve.
Okay.
Imagine you inoculate a jar. A few days later, you have a tiny little dime-sized patch of white fuzz.
That's maybe, 5% colonization?
At best.
And I get impatient. I want to speed it up. So I shake it.
If you shake it, then you are very likely to kill it.
Just flat out kill it.
Or at least stunt it permanently. That tiny colony hasn't established enough of a metabolic network yet. It hasn't digested enough of the grain to store up energy.
It's living paycheck to paycheck.
It has absolutely zero savings account. It hasn't built up any glycogen stores, no lipid droplets.
So when you smash it...
When you smash it, you are causing massive physical trauma. You are ripping cell walls apart. You are destroying its transport network.
Wow.
If you spread it out at 5%, the individual fragments are just too small and too weak to recover.
They just don't have the energy to rebuild their walls.
Right. They just fizzle out and die in the darkness.
So it's like taking a toddler and throwing them into a marathon. They're just not ready for that level of stress.
A bit dramatic, but yeah, functionally yes. You need the organism to have a solid foothold first.
On the flip side, though, what if I wait until the jar is 90% or 100% colonized?
Then shaking it is completely pointless.
Because it's already done.
Well, not just that. You are actually actively damaging it right before you want to use it.
Oh, right.
If you shake a 100% jar, you are breaking the network, forcing it to burn up its energy reserves to repair itself.
Right before you spawn it to a bulk tub.
Exactly. Where it desperately needs that energy to fight off environmental contaminants like trichoderma.
You're tiring out your fighter right before the main event.
The perfect analogy. You want them resting before the fight.
So the sweet spot really is that 30 to 50% range.
Yes. At 30%, the network is established, it's solid, it has access to nutrients, it has that savings account of glycogen we talked about.
It can handle the trauma.
It can easily handle the trauma. But there is still enough uncolonized grain left, that other 70%, to make the redistribution actually worth the effort.
Now, I want to touch on something you mentioned in the lab the other day, which is the Hydra Effect.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
Because I have noticed this for years. When I break a jar and it comes back, it doesn't just come back the same.
No, it does.
It comes back thicker, it looks angrier, it looks like it's been lifting weights.
It does look pumped up, and that is a very real biological phenomenon. This isn't just your imagination playing tricks on you.
So what's happening?
Well, in botany, we talk about apical dominance in trees.
Right, like if you cut the top off a pine tree.
The side branches start to grow out.
Right, it gets really bushy.
Fungi work in a very similar way. Imagine a single hypha, a single fungal thread growing through the grain.
Okay.
It has a tip, the apex. That tip is the leader. It is driving the bus.
It's the spearhead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And chemically, that leading tip sends a constant signal backward down the line.
What does the signal say?
It basically says, I am in charge. Everyone else, stay quiet, Do not branch out yet. We are going straight forward to find food.
So it suppresses the side roads to keep the main highway moving fast. It's focusing all the colony's resources on the spear tip.
Exactly. It wants to find new food as fast as physically possible. But when you do a break and shake, what are you doing?
I am snapping that thread. I am decapitating the leader.
You are decapitating the hyphae. You are physically shearing off those leading tips all across the colony.
And when you do that, the suppression signal stops.
It is instant silence on the chemical channel. The hormone flow just cuts out.
And then what?
Suddenly, all those subapical sites, the dormant potential branches further back down the thread, they wake up.
Wow.
They get the signal that the leader is dead. We need new leaders. Branch, branch, branch.
So instead of one tip growing forward, you get 5 or 6 side branches shooting out all at once from the exact same strand.
It's the Hydra. You cut off one head, and 2 or 5 grow back in its place.
That explains so much.
This is exactly why the recovery after a shake often looks so much denser and more rhizomorphic than the initial growth. We aren't just spreading the fungus around.
We are structurally altering it.
Yes, we are triggering a branching burst that makes the physical network far more complex and robust.
That is incredibly cool. We're not just moving it, we're training it. We're like a drill sergeant, breaking it down just to build it up stronger.
That's a very apt analogy. It's stress-induced adaptation.
But let's zoom in. Let's put this under the electron microscope. Because this is where I frankly get a little skeptical, even after seeing it 1,000 times.
Okay, let's zoom in.
When I smash that jar, I am tearing cell walls. I am ripping the organism completely apart.
You are.
In literally any other animal, if I ripped you into 1,000 pieces, you wouldn't just reassemble.
I definitely would not.
How does it not just bleed out and die? How does it physically put itself back together?
This is where we get into the magic of anastomosis.
Anastomosis.
Right. Anastomosis is just the fancy scientific term for the fusion of 2 fungal cells. But the biological mechanism behind it, it is absolute sci-fi level stuff.
Wow.
It is one of the most sophisticated communication systems in all of nature.
Okay, so take us to the exact moment of impact.
Yeah.
I have just smashed the jar against the tire. The hyphae are snapped. It is a microscopic battlefield. What happens in the very first second?
The first second is pure triage. It is an emergency response protocol. When a hypha is broken, the cytoplasm, the living jelly inside the cell, threatens to leak out into the environment.
And if that happens, the cell depressurizes.
Depressurizes and dies instantly.
It bleeds out.
Right. But fungi have been dealing with trauma for 1 billion years. They are prepared for this.
How?
They have these internal structures called septa. They are like cross walls or bulkheads in a submarine.
Go ahead, I can picture that.
They separate the long tube into individual compartments. Now, these septa have tiny pores in them to let nutrients and nuclei flow back and forth.
But if there's a breach,
If there is a breach, specialized organelles rush to that pore.
what are they called?
They're often called Warronin bodies.
Warren bodies. I've seen these under the scope. What do they look like too?
They look like tiny crystalline plugs. Imagine a whole breach on the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, the alarms are blaring.
And an emergency blast door slams shut. The Warronin body physically wedges itself into the septal pore and plugs it.
Like corking a wine bottle.
Exactly like corking a bottle. So step 1 is hemostasis. Stop the bleeding. Isolate the heavily damaged section.
Preserve the nuclei and the organelles in the safe compartments behind the blast doors.
Precisely. Once the leak is sealed, the fungus takes a breath, metaphorically speaking, and realizes its situation.
Which is that it's in pieces.
It realizes, I am alone. I am fragmented. I need to reconnect with the rest of myself.
And this is the part that blows my mind every time we talk about it.
It's wild.
Because these are microscopic fragments scattered across a quart jar of oats.
Right.
They don't have eyes. They don't have a brain. They're buried in the dark. How do they find each other?
They use a chemical radar.
Radar.
It's called chemotropism. They actually grow toward a specific chemical signal.
But it's not just like smelling a generic scent.
No, if they just put out a generic scent, they might attract predators. Or worse, they might try to fuse with a completely different species of mold, which would be disastrous.
So how do they coordinate it securely?
The way they coordinate it has been described as a ping-pong signaling mechanism.
Ping-pong, like table tennis.
Yes, back and forth. Imagine 2 broken hyphal tips are near each other in the grain.
Yeah.
They need to fuse, but they need to be absolutely sure they're fusing with self.
With their own clone.
Right, and not some enemy mold. So they set up an oscillatory signal.
Oscillatory, meaning it pulses. It's not just a constant beam of chemicals.
It pulses. We have actually identified the specific proteins involved in this in the lab.
Which ones?
Specifically, there's a MAP kinase protein called MAK-2.
MAK-2.
And a scaffold protein called SOFT. You can actually watch this happen under a fluorescence microscope if you tag these proteins with glowing markers.
Oh, wow. What does it look like?
It literally looks like a lighthouse.
Okay, paint the picture for me. I am a broken hypha. You are a broken hypha. How do we talk to each other?
Okay, let's role play it. Every 4 minutes or so, it's a very specific, strict rhythm. The SOFT protein complex assembles at the very tip of my hypha. I am actively sending a signal. I am the lighthouse flashing on.
Okay.
At that exact same moment, perfectly out of phase, the MAK-2 complex assembles at the tip of your hypha to receive the signal.
So you are shouting and I am listening.
Exactly. I'm shouting Marco. And you are listening.
Got it.
And then 4 minutes later, we switch.
We switch.
The proteins completely disassemble in me and they reassemble in you.
So I become the sender.
You become the sender and I become the receiver. You shout polo and I listen. We go back and forth, ping-ponging this chemical signal, locking onto each other's exact frequency.
That is unbelievable. But why do they switch roles? Why not just have one talk and one listen? That seems mechanically simpler.
It does seem simpler, but it's dangerous. They do it to avoid self-stimulation.
What do you mean?
This is the real genius of the system. If a hypha was constantly emitting and receiving the exact same signal simultaneously, it might get confused.
By its own signal.
Yes. It might think its own chemical reflection in a water droplet is a neighbor. It might try to turn around and literally fuse with its own tail.
Oh, wow. That would be a waste of energy.
A massive waste. By oscillating, by taking turns, it mathematically ensures that the signal is coming from outside.
From a distinct entity that is responding in kind.
It's a handshake protocol. It is an encrypted biological channel.
It's verifying the connection before opening the data port.
Exactly. And as they do this, as they ping-pong, they dynamically redirect their growth. They steer toward each other through the grains.
The tips grow closer and closer.
Until they physically touch.
The kiss.
The contact. Now, you have two cell walls touching, but this is highly dangerous.
Because the cell wall is their armor.
Right. To fuse, they literally have to take off the armor.
Which leaves them vulnerable to popping.
Incredibly vulnerable. Fungal cells are under immense turgor pressure. They are pumped full of water. It's like a balloon ready to burst.
So how do they open the wall without exploding?
They release enzymes called hydrolases.
Hydrolases. They dissolve water.
They soften and digest the chitin in the cell wall right at the tiny contact point.
Okay.
But, and this is the critical part, at the exact same time, they activate synthesis to reinforce the edges of that contact circle.
So they are building a door frame before they knock down the wall.
Perfectly put. If they didn't reinforce the edges of the hole, the internal pressure would blow the connection completely apart.
Wow.
So they reinforce the ring, they dissolve the center, and then...
Plasmogamy.
Plasmogamy.
That is such a fun word to say. Plasmogamy.
It's the merger. The plasma membranes finally fuse, the pore opens, and suddenly it's not two separate cells anymore.
It's one continuous tube.
Cytoplasm rushes through, nuclei rush through, mitochondria rush through. The network is physically reconnected.
And this exact process is happening millions of times inside that jar after I shake it.
Millions of times simultaneously. You've taken a pile of broken debris and turned it back into a unified, communicating superorganism.
That is just phenomenal.
And here is the kicker. The repaired network is often functionally tougher than the original.
Why is that? Does it form, like, scar tissue?
Sort of, yeah. It involves the cell wall integrity pathway, the CWI.
How did that work?
When the fungus is physically broken, it triggers a massive systemic stress response. Sensors embedded on the outside of the cell wall, proteins like WSC1, detect the physical shearing stress.
They realize they've been attacked.
They send an urgent message down to the nucleus saying, we are under attack, reinforce the hull, build thicker walls everywhere.
So it upgrades the armor globally.
Yes. The new cell walls that are built during this repair phase are often measurably thicker and have a higher chitin content.
Which explains why a shaken jar, once it finally recovers, often looks ropier or more robust.
It has reinforced itself against future trauma. It is quite literally ready for war.
That is wild. So we are not just speeding it up. We are essentially giving it a workout.
Yeah.
We are toughening it up for the fruiting chamber.
Exactly.
But there is a cost to all this.
There's always a cost.
And that cost is time. Which brings us to the part of the process that scares beginners the absolute most.
The lag phase.
Oh, yes. The terrifying silence.
Yeah.
You shake the jar, you put it back on the shelf, and for the next 2 or 3 days,
Absolutely nothing happens.
it looks dead.
It looks worse than dead. It looks invisible.
Like you never inoculated in the first place.
It's the silence before the boom.
Yeah.
And it is completely 100% normal. You have to understand the energy budget of the fungus here.
Go down the budget.
Before the shake, all of its energy, 100%, was going into exploration.
Finding new grain, growing those long, beautiful rhizomorphs.
Right, growth mode. But after the shake, you have caused massive systemic trauma. The fungus immediately halts all outward expansion.
It hits the brakes hard.
It redirects its entire energy budget into repair. It's busy fixing the leaks, establishing those chemical handshakes, fusing the network back together.
So it's not dead, it's just busy internally.
It is incredibly busy. Metabolically, it is roaring. It's just not growing outward where you can see it.
Which creates this agonizing window.
Usually 12 to 72 hours where the jar looks like it has reverted to uncolonized wet grain. The bright white disappears entirely because the hyphae are matted down against the oats and recovering.
And this is exactly where people panic. They think they killed it. You see it on the forums all the time. People post frantic pictures going, I shook my jar and now the mycelium is gone.
Gone forever. And sometimes when it does start to come back, it looks really thin.
Wispy. Grayish.
Yes.
I've seen that so many times. It doesn't look like that bright white snow anymore. It looks almost like cobwebs.
And that triggers even more panic.
Because they think, oh, God, is that cobweb mold? Did I infect it?
And usually, no, it is not mold. That wispy grayish growth is the initial reestablishment of the highways.
It's the scaffolding.
Exactly. The fungus is prioritizing connection speed over density. It is running fiber optic cables before it builds the skyscrapers.
It just needs to reconnect the network as fast as possible.
So it grows thin and it grows fast.
So if a listener sees thin, wispy growth on day 2 after a shake, they shouldn't throw it out.
No, it is perfectly normal. Just give it another 24 hours. Once the network is fully reconnected, usually around day 3 or 4, you get what we call the boom.
The boom is the best part.
Because of those exponential points of contact we talked about earlier, the jar will suddenly turn bright, blindingly white almost overnight.
It goes from invisible to done in a snap.
It is so satisfying when it happens.
It is. But let's be real for a second. In the lab, it doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes you shake the jar and it just doesn't recover. It stays wet. Or something else comes back instead of the mushroom mycelium.
And this leads us to the other major reason we insist on shaking. It's not just for speed.
It's a stress test.
We call this the Band-Aid rip.
I love this concept because so many growers, especially beginners, blame the shake itself for the contamination.
All the time.
They say, my jar was so clean, it was beautiful. I shook it, and 2 days later it turned green. The shake caused the contamination.
That is perhaps the most common misconception in all of mycology. And I want to say this very clearly to everyone listening. The shake did not cause the contamination.
The shake revealed the contamination.
Exactly. It revealed what was already hiding there.
It was lurking the whole time.
It was there from the beginning. We call this latent contamination. Imagine you have a large quart jar of grain.
Okay.
Maybe one single oat kernel right in the dead center of that jar wasn't perfectly hydrated. Or maybe it had a tough bacterial endospore inside it that somehow survived the heat of the pressure cooker.
Or maybe a rogue mold spore got sucked in during inoculation and is hiding in a little pocket of air in the center.
Exactly. But the mushroom mycelium is growing over the top of it. It might even be actively suppressing it locally.
It's building a wall around the bad neighborhood.
Right. So the jar looks perfectly clean from the outside. You hold it up to the light, you inspect it, and it is pure white.
But it's secretly a time bomb.
And when you shake it,
You detonate the bomb.
you break that wall. You take that one single contaminated grain that was safely quarantined in the center, and you mix it violently all over the jar.
You spread the pathogen everywhere.
And now we get into a race between the fungus and the bacteria.
And the listener really needs to understand this is a race with very unfair rules.
It is remarkably unfair. We call it kinetic asymmetry. Let's look at the stats.
Who is faster?
The bacteria, by an absolute landslide. Let's look at the fungus first.
Okay.
It grows by tip extension. It has to physically construct and extend its body to move. It's like building a railroad track.
You can only move the train as fast as you can lay the steel track.
Exactly. It's highly complex. It involves moving organelles, synthesizing chitin, building cell walls. It is slow, heavy work.
And the bacteria.
Bacteria, like Bacillus, reproduce by binary fission.
They just split in half.
They just split. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8. Under ideal conditions, and a warm, wet grain jar is absolute heaven for them.
It's an incubator.
Bacteria can double every 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, let's do the math on that for a second. If I have one single Bacillus bacterium,
In 12 hours, that one single bacterium can become billions.
literally billions.
Literally, if you do the math, 2 to the power of 24, assuming it doubles twice an hour for 12 hours, is over 16 million. In 24 hours, you can't even write the number down on a page.
And remember, during those first 12 to 24 hours after the shake, what is the fungus doing?
It's sleeping. Well, it's repairing. It's trapped in the lag phase.
It has paused its growth to fix the physical damage.
The bacteria, they don't have to fix any damage. You just gave them a free ride to a brand new food source, and they start eating and dividing immediately.
So while the fungus is busy putting on its bandages, the bacteria is eating the entire buffet.
Exactly. By the time the fungus finally wakes up and is ready to grow again, say 48 hours later, the bacteria has completely established a biofilm.
Oh, wow.
It has changed the pH of the grain. It has consumed all the easy sugars. The fungus wakes up to find its house occupied, and the lock's changed.
And that's exactly why the jar never recovers. It just stays looking wet and uncolonized forever.
Right. And this brings up another cool concept, the antibiotic shield.
The shield.
Mature mycelium naturally produces secondary metabolites, things like antibiotics, antifungals, and those hydrophobins we mentioned earlier.
It creates a chemical force field around itself to repel invaders.
Yes, and the shake completely disrupts that shield.
It shatters it.
It dilutes those defensive chemicals. It exposes the raw, unprotected hyphal tips to the environment.
So if the spawn is perfectly clean, the mycelium reestablishes the shield quickly and moves on.
But if the spawn was dirty, that brief moment of disruption, that sudden gap in the armor, is the exact opening the bacteria needed to take over.
So hearing all this, it honestly sounds like a bad thing. Why do I want to give the bacteria such a massive advantage? Why do I want to help the enemy win?
Because you want to know. You desperately need to know if that jar is dirty now.
You want the bacteria to win now.
Yes.
Explain that logic. Why is failure actually good here?
Think about the alternative scenario. Let's say you didn't shake it. You just let it grow linearly.
Okay.
The mycelium might have successfully covered up that bacterial patch in the center. It might have walled it off entirely. You look at the jar a week later. It looks beautifully white. You think it's clean.
So I spawn it. I dump that jar into a big plastic tub with 5 pounds of expensive substrate, coco coir, vermiculite. I put it in my pristine fruiting chamber.
And that is the disaster, because when you spawn to bulk, you are physically breaking the mycelium again. You are stressing it again.
But this time, I've put it in a non-sterile environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The bacteria that was hiding safely inside that jar breaks out into the wet substrate. And because the mycelium is already weakened from fighting the bacteria, it inevitably falls prey to trichoderma.
The green mold.
The green monster in the tub.
And now, instead of just losing $1 worth of oats in a jar, I have lost $50 of substrate, the cost of the tub, and 3 weeks of my life.
And plus, you've just released mold spores all over your grow room. Spawning a bacterial jar to a bulk tub is quite literally a time bomb. It will contaminate before you ever get a single mushroom.
The shake forces the issue early. It says, pass this test or die right now.
It is infinitely better to lose a jar at the green stage than to lose an entire tub later.
It's pure quality control. It's a stress test. If you can't survive the shake in the jar, it doesn't deserve to go in the tub.
That is the motto in our lab. If it dies, it dies.
Okay, so let's get really practical for the folks listening.
Yeah.
I have shaken my jar. It's been 3 days. How do I diagnose what I'm looking at?
Time to play crime scene investigator.
Exactly. What does a good recovery look like versus a bad one? Let's start with the good.
A good recovery is marked by uniformity and dryness. Within 48 to 72 hours, you should see bright white specks appearing everywhere evenly across the grain.
It shouldn't be patchy.
Not patchy at all. And the grain itself should look dry.
Dry. But fungi need a lot of water to grow.
They do, but healthy mycelium manages moisture incredibly well. It drinks it up and holds it internally. The outside of the green shouldn't look wet or slimy.
Okay, now let's talk about wet rot, usually caused by bacillus.
The grease.
I hate the grease. It's the worst.
It's so gross. If you look at the grains pressed against the glass and they look shiny, excessively wet, or greasy, that is bacteria.
If you see uncolonized patches that look like they're smushed against the glass, almost like the grain is melting.
Melting is a great word for it. That's definitely bacteria breaking down the starch.
And the sweat.
Yes, the sweat. Bacterial metabolism produces a lot of heat and water. If you see excess moisture actively pooling at the very bottom of the jar,
Like dirty, yellow, muddy water.
that is metabolic waste. That is bacterial rave party happening in your jar. That jar is totally gone. Do not even open it.
And the smell. I mean, we always tell people to be extremely careful sniffing jars, and we will get to lab safety in a minute. But the smell of wet rot is unmistakable.
It hits you like a truck. A healthy jar smells like fresh rain. It's earthy, mushroomy, maybe a little sweet if it's grain, almost like fresh bread baking.
But a bacterial jar.
It smells incredibly sour. It smells like rotting apples or dirty gym socks left in a locker, or harsh fermentation.
It's that butyric acid smell. If you instinctively wince when you smell it, toss it.
Absolutely. Trust your nose. Your evolutionary biology is very, very good at detecting rot.
It's a survival mechanism to keep you from eating bad food.
If your brain says ew, listen to your brain.
What about mold? What about the green monster, trichoderma?
Trichoderma usually shows up right after a shake if the spores were completely hidden inside the green clumps.
It grows incredibly fast, right?
Much faster than mushroom mycelium.
That's the scary part. It outpaces the mushroom.
It does. Now, a lot of people don't realize trichoderma is actually a bright white mold before it turns green.
But it looks different than mushroom mycelium.
It's brighter, it's more chaotic, it looks almost like crushed drywall or thick powdered sugar.
If you see a thick patch of bright white that is racing way ahead of everything else, be highly suspicious.
And once it turns green, it is game over. Do not, under any circumstances, open that jar inside your house.
Yeah, that is a literal spore bomb.
The shake spreads the mold spores everywhere inside the jar. If you see green, that jar is hazardous waste. It contains billions of spores.
If you open that in your lab or your kitchen, you are seeding your future failures for months to come.
Just throw the whole jar away, or at least take it outside far away to dump it.
I want to pivot to some advanced concepts before we wrap up today's deep dive. We talked earlier about how the mycelium gets tougher after a shake. There's a scientific term for this.
Competitive exclusion.
Right. Walk us through that.
This is a fundamental ecological concept. In a perfectly sterile environment, like a fresh grain jar, the mycelium gets lazy.
Doesn't need to fight anything.
Exactly. It grows wispy and light. It's like a kid who grew up in the sterile plastic bubble. But in a competitive environment, or one where it has been heavily stressed,
It adapts. It armors up.
it does. We see this all the time in liquid fermentation baths. Submerged mycelium that is constantly agitated is often much denser and forms tight pellets.
So a shaken jar that successfully recovers is genuinely toughened up.
It has upregulated its entire immune system. It has physically reinforced its cell walls. It is metabolically on high alert.
It's like the difference between a guy who just hits the heavy bag at the gym and a street fighter.
The shaken mycelium has seen some stuff. It is ready for the dirty, unsterile world of the bulk tub.
Precisely. And this ties right into the concept of decentralized intelligence. We touched on this lightly with the healing, but it goes much deeper.
It really does. The mycelium lacks a brain. It has no central nervous system, no central processing unit.
Yet when you violently shake it, the entire colony somehow coordinates a massive systemic response.
How does it do that? How does a piece of mycelium on the far left side of the jar know what's happening on the far right side? They aren't even touching anymore.
Well, once they fuse back together, they communicate via calcium waves.
Calcium waves, like in human neurons.
Very similar. When a hypha is physically injured, it releases a massive burst of calcium ions. This triggers a chemical wave that propagates rapidly through the entire network.
Even across the septal pores we talked about earlier.
Yes, it flows right through them. It's like an electrical signal traveling down a nerve, just a bit slower. So the stress signal literally ripples through the entire jar.
Yes. This signal tells the entire global organism, stop exploring, start healing, conserve all resources.
It coordinates that lag phase.
It ensures that the colony acts as one single unit, even when it has just been violently fragmented. It is a brilliant form of distributed computing.
That is just, I mean, it makes you respect the organism so much more.
It really does. It's not just a dumb plant growing in dirt. It is a highly complex, responsive, intelligent entity.
It's like an alien intelligence, honestly. We are just barely learning how to communicate with it in the lab.
Okay, so let's leave the listeners with some hard, practical advice for the lab. Based on all this deep science we just covered, what are your golden rules of the break and shake?
Rule number 1. Don't shake if the jar is already 100% colonized.
Never.
You are doing massive cellular damage for literally no reason. You're just draining its battery right before the long marathon of fruiting. Just spawn it to bulk.
Good rule. Rule number 2.
Don't shake if the mycelium looks weak before the shake.
This is important.
If your mycelium is super wispy, struggling, or barely growing at all, shaking it will probably just kill it.
It needs to be metabolically strong enough to survive the surgery. If it looks sick, let it ride linearly or just toss it.
And rule number 3.
Do not be gentle.
I love this one. This is where we get to take out all our lab frustration.
If you are going to break it, really break it. I see people online gently tapping the jar against their palm, leaving big, solid clumps of grain the size of golf balls.
That completely defeats the purpose.
You want maximum distribution. You want those exponential points of contact we calculated. Whack it against a tire. Shake it like you actually mean it.
Get it completely back to individual grains if at all possible.
Go big or go home. And my personal rule number 4, which we hinted at, the smell test warning.
Yes, please. Everyone be careful here. When you shake a jar, you are completely aerosolizing whatever is inside that jar.
Every spore, every bacterium gets knocked into the air inside the glass.
If that jar happens to have trichoderma or aspergillus mold hiding in it, and you pop the lid open and take a huge, deep sniff,
You are inhaling millions of mold spores directly into your warm, wet lungs.
which can cause serious long-term respiratory issues, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, severe lung infections. It is not a joke in this hobby.
Waft, don't snort.
Exactly. Use your hand, gently wave the air from the top of the jar toward your nose. Do not stick your face directly in the jar.
And if you see green dust on the grain, don't try to smell it at all. Just put it in the trash.
Safety first, folks. Chronic lung infections are definitely not part of the hobby.
Hopefully not.
So, to summarize the wild journey we've been on today, we started with the fear.
The gut feeling that breaking the jar is an act of pure violence.
And we have seen that it is actually a calculated act of engineering. We're using the laws of physics, exponential growth, to massively speed things up.
We are actively turning linear time into exponential speed.
We are relying on the pure magic of biology and anastomosis and the ping-pong signaling of the MAK-2 and SOFT proteins to let the fungus heal itself stronger than it was before.
And we are using the harsh reality of ecology, the Band-Aid rip, to purposely expose hidden contamination and ensure only the strongest, healthiest spawn makes it to your fruiting chamber.
The break and shake isn't murder, it's boot camp.
It's a stress test, a growth accelerant, and a vital tool. And like any tool in the lab, if you truly understand how it works on a cellular level, you stop being afraid of it and you start using it to your advantage.
I think that is a perfect place to wrap up the deep dive for today. But before we go, I do want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We talked extensively about how the fungus dynamically reconnects itself after being broken. When you break that mycelium, you aren't just hurting it, you are forcing it to communicate with itself more intensely than it ever would in nature.
In a normal, unbroken jar, the hyphae just grow away from each other. They never look back.
But in a shaken jar, they have to turn around, find each other in the dark, shake hands, and fuse.
That is a profound thought. You are artificially creating a network that is infinitely more interconnected and communicative than a natural one.
You are actively creating a superconnected network. You're building a super brain in a jar. Just something to think about next time you're smashing a jar of grain against a spare tire in your garage.
I am definitely never going to look at a grain jar the exact same way again.
Thanks for listening. Happy growing, and don't forget to subscribe.